The problem with tank is that because we're now the solo tank, you more directly interact with every bad thing the enemy team has to offer more frequently. Here's the problem that we have to understand with this whole tank discussion is it's the getting of value and the feeling of getting of value. That are very two different things, two very different things. Why do tanks complain so much nowadays? Why are all the tanks complaining? And the problem with tanks fundamentally is that there are situations in the game where you just can't play. If DPS supports aren't really having that level of value, you can do absolutely nothing. You're at the front line who gets absolutely well on it. It's a very masochistic feeling. It goes on to say that some tanks exaggerate a little and that the role can be feast as much as famine, because that really sucks if you want to play certain heroes. I'm not saying this statement is wrong. I'm asking, are we gaslighting ourselves, or is there something that tank deals with more that supports DPS don't? I think there is. I have a guess. The fact that it's one person makes it feel worse. I think that's probably the most important thing that when it comes to this tank discussion. I think the problem with tank is that because we're now the solo tank, you more directly interact with every bad thing the enemy team has to offer more frequently. So I actually don't necessarily agree with this statement from Custa, but I agree with the sentiment. I understand the feeling that it feels like you can't play the game because everything that you want to do directly runs into what the enemy teams want to do. Guys, here's the problem that we have to understand with this whole tank discussion is it's the getting of value and the feeling of getting of value. That are very two different things, two very different things. If I go in as tank, as Winston, and I jump the backline, Bastion turret forms, Torb overloads, sleep dart, and I get out alive using bubble, that is a massive cooldown trade. Massive. Very positive for my team. But that doesn't feel good for me. I don't enjoy that. In fact, I could think about it as like I can do nothing this game because every single time I jump in, I get overload, I get turret form, I get sleep dart. That's the problem. You go in, you get maximum value, but minimum dopamine. Maximum value, minimum dopamine is the tank experience when you get counterpicked. You hear me? There's your time. There's your soundbite. There's your soundbite. That's the problem. So the problem is not being counterpicked because again, rock, paper, scissors, at least in the tank role, is overrated. And even in the DPS role is overrated, but it still feels awful. That in combination with the fact that most people don't know how to counterplay or adjust because they only know how to play one way makes everything feel terrible. So the problem is can you play Winston into Reaper, Bastion, Torbjorn? Yes. But you may not like it. And it is a very, very common feeling. And the reason, again, why that happens more with tank is because tank is the one that is consistently, directly interacting with the enemy team. How do we solve this problem? It's not adding another tank. It's not buffing Winston. How do we solve this problem? Remember, we're not talking about this from a coaching perspective. We're talking about it from a game design perspective. As in, we want this to be enjoyable. Add more tanks, but I don't want to. I want to play Winston. Tank more health, now the rule's busted. Who are the problem characters? Bastion, Torbjorn, Discord on tank, Sleep Dart and Nade, You guys got me, right? Are those problems not fixable, but improvable? Torbjorn's fire rate, is that kind of silly? Yes, surely surely we can do something about that. Surely we can do something about the Discord. Surely Discord could be nerfed on tank specifically. Surely biotic nade duration can be reduced on tank. Surely Bastion turret form could be adjusted to maybe have less potency on tanks. Because remember, guys, we don't want to remove the individual nuance of each character, but we do not want caricatures like we did in Overwatch 1. We don't have the attack and defense category anymore. You got me? So why does Bastion have a turret form that does as much damage as it does to tanks? Why? Why is that the case? My argument to help this problem is you need to look at the problem characters that this affects, because it's not an accident that the characters that keep coming up are Bastion, Zen, Ana, Torb, and so. Okay, this is the crazy thing too. I coach people not to always Discord tank because it's not the best move. I coach people to not always nade tank because it's not always the best move. But when you get naded and discorded as a tank, you don't go, hey, all right, I took one for the team. That's stupid. No, you're thinking, it sucks, right? It's not fun, even if it isn't the best move. So sadly, you do need to incorporate that. I mean, listen, I'm Mr. Competitive Integrity here, guys, but you know, we should consider those things. We should consider those things. Chat, who's the first tank that they're gonna pick if you're playing Winston, Reinhardt, Ball, Doom? Who are they gonna pick? Who are they gonna pick? Orisa. Every time. Every time. Ladies and gentlemen, is Orisa always the best pick for tank? No, she's not. She's not even, dude, she's not even that crazy. She's pretty strong in the meta right now, but even in the previous metas, people would still pick her. Why? If I'm the tank player in the enemy team, and there's a Winston that's diving my backline, and I'm playing Reinhardt, I go, gee whiz, I can't really shoot that Winston guy. Frick, man, how do I help my team? Huh. Oh, I know. The character that shoots the Winston guy. Bro, Orisa isn't even that good in the tank war. She's not even that good at the tank war. People made fun of me when I said that Orisa doesn't counter Reinhardt. Guys, she doesn't counter Reinhardt. She's not even that good. She's good in the Reinhardt 1v1, but she's not even that good at Reinhardt. But it feels like you are. That's the thing. You feel like you're doing it. Wham! Yeah! Dopamine! Survive! Boopity boop! Ah! You know? It feels like you're doing the right thing. You live a long time. You hit a javelin that has the hitbox of a Mack truck. You boop the tank around. Bam, 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 bam. But you don't even, but you're not, but that's the thing is you don't even do anything. But it doesn't matter because it feels bad. When I pick Reinhardt into Orisa, again, I go, look at this jackass. This guy thinks that Orisa's better than Brawl than Reinhardt. And then I cry because I'm winning, but it doesn't feel very fun for me. When I'm playing Ball, and they go Orisa, and Discord, and Ana, and I bait all of their cooldowns, but I can only slam like once every hour, because otherwise I just get one shot. I don't think about all the cooldowns that I'm baiting. I think about the fact that I can never actually even try to shoot anything and never kill anything. It feels like a game of like whack-a-mole, trying to not get smoked. I don't go, oh, look at that. I baited Orisa javelin. Nobody cares. I try to talk about these things in my coaching sessions so that people are aware of these things, so that you do feel good about baiting those cooldowns. But we don't have to pretend that that's fun. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the problem with Orisa? Is Orisa really the anti-tank tank? Yes, kind of. But what's the problem with Orisa? It's too little value for too little effort. In fact, guys, you could look at Orisa's javelin and be like, man, we need more abilities that feel that good. They hopefully are not that easy to land, but Orisa could be hitting javelins and doing nothing with them, but it feels good, right? Easy value for little work. So you need to look at Orisa and be like, hey, can we make this character still feel fun, but take a little bit more effort? And maybe spread the love to where Orisa doesn't have to only focus the enemy tank. Because that's the other problem with Orisa as well, is because she doesn't have the mobility. Of course she's going to focus your tank. What else is she going to shoot? What else is she going to shoot? So it's both a good and a bad thing for Orisa. Orisa has limited options, so she takes what she's given. And that's exactly what makes it. When you have a character that only does one thing, it's a caricature. It's not good character design. Chat, can you think of any other characters that only do one thing? Bastion, Pharah, Roadhog, Reaper, Wrecking Ball. Ooh, true. Widowmaker. You guys got me? Moira. Shockingly, those characters are kind of annoying. When you have characters that are caricatures, they're not fun. Because for them to be good and not trash, they have to be very, very strong at that caricature. And that really takes people off. I mean, even Ball to an extent, right? Ball is so bad in tank matchups that he has to be elite at dealing with and assassinating backliners. Now, am I saying buff Ball's tank damage? I mean, I don't know, not necessarily, but we got to be very careful about how we buff Wrecking Ball. Because he's already a demon at assassinating backlines that don't have CC. I think tank is definitely still tank. It's extremes. If you don't die, you're just gonna explode. That's the unfun part. By the way, you notice in the language here, notice the language here. What does this sound like? If you don't die, or you just don't die, or you instantly explode. It's caricature. It's caricature, right? It's extremes, right? All or nothing, which again goes into questions about these heroes' design. Forced playstyles aren't fun, and not just forced playstyles, extreme into the spectrum playstyles, where Winston can do a ton. Winston just baits cooldowns. Winston kills, Winston baits cooldowns. You can play complete opposite ends of the spectrum, just depending on the enemy column. You need to give characters nuance, but they must have dynamics. If characters do not have dynamics, they become caricatures, and they become unfun to play against, and they become rock, paper, scissors characters themselves. How do you balance hero identity without making a caricature? That is a tough part, but we've done it very successfully with many characters. I think if you look at something like a Genji, if you look at something like an Ana, is she powerful? Yes. Is she a little bit too powerful? Yes. But she's got nuance. Diva, Echo, Mei, I don't know, Ryan, right? Sojourn, Symmetra, parts of her kit still need to work, but has a little bit more nuance, but better than Overwatch 1, right? We're getting there. Higher skill, like, right, not just more dynamics, but also higher skill ceilings too, right? Healthier skill curves. The overarching issue is that Overwatch was originally designed with a whole cast of caricatures with tiny niches. Now they're trying to move away from that, but they can't remove the whole design because of nostalgia. Perfect summation right there. You talk about cheese characters, you talk about tank being miserable, you talk about support struggles and DPS struggles. That's it right there. I could not put it better myself. I agree with Jake. I think we should move away from more niche supports. Every hero should have a strong and a weak point. I'm not saying every character is homogenous. Should not be homogenization, but there's a balance. Don't tell me that you don't enjoy playing Junker Queen and Sojourn. Don't tell me that you don't enjoy playing Echo or Winston or the reworked Symmetra or even the reworked Bastion, as annoying and powerful. Like, he's still too strong of a niche, but don't tell me, because that's the direction that we're going. Those characters are freaking fun. You don't need a hard, tiny niche for it to be a fun character. Yes, Mercy's design is the same as well. Has nothing other than pocket healing. Right, even Ryan. Ryan has way more mobility than he had in Overwatch 1. Slight disadvantage is fine. Nothing about Reinhardt will ever make him best on Dorado's second point. But the ability to get pin more often and have 2 fire strikes makes that point less awful. And that's the goal. There's always a skill issue element. Exactly. There will always be counter picking in Overwatch 2. Let me be very clear. That will never go away, but it could be mitigated a little bit, right? It can be mitigated. And remember, we talked about it's not just the counter picking, it's the impression of counter picking. When people counter pick you by picking Orisa, very rarely are they actually counter picking you. Very rarely are they actually counter picking you, but it sure feels like it. It sure feels like it.